Okay, let's watch someone bitch about what they perceive to be, quote unquote, the gay agenda. That is, of course, the gay agenda on the bingo card as well.
A gay agenda. Whenever anyone alludes to an agenda, the instant reaction from low-level thinkers, apologists and enablers is to call
You can tell this guy's a high-level thinker because he's on BitChute, and this video has 116 views. Very impressive.
it a conspiracy theory, attack the character of the person making the claim, and make snide remarks. When it comes to the possibility of an agenda, people should keep compartmentalization in mind, where the higher up the pyramid you are, the more you're aware of what's going on. Bear this in mind when we delve into this video topic, because there's no doubt that a lot of people enabling...
Don't forget he sounds like Sargon, because he has a UK accent. And I don't know what specific accent that is. I know there are many, many accents within the UK. But are you saying that just because he sounds like that?
The gay agenda are blissfully unaware of what they're involved in and are simply partaking in a sexual lifestyle. Gays have essentially always existed and always will, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to delve into the driving force behind what constitutes a gay agenda in modern society.
No, he doesn't sound like Sargon in any way other than the fact that he's from, like, Britain or something.
And what it aims to achieve. It's becoming increasingly difficult to keep up with the growing number of sexualities that are part of the gay agenda.
The growing number of sexualities? What? What are you talking about? Like, sexualities are descriptive, not prescriptive. So you're not coming up with new things. You're just describing things people already feel, right? So there are straight people, there are gay people, there are bi people who are attracted to either gender in terms of like masculine or feminine, or men or women. There are people who are pansexual, which can be in theory attracted to like any kind of person regardless of their gender. There are asexual people who are generally not interested. There are different kinds of asexuality. I understand that under the heading, but I'm just using the umbrella asexuality. I know the word finsexual because of Daddy Sume, which basically means attracted to feminine but not really caring about genitals. Again, it's not creating new sexualities, it's just defining already existing sexualities. They're not new, they're just coming up with words to describe things that already exist. Adia Blue says, I know the gay agender. I met them at FurCon before COVID. Hydrate.
And as I will reveal in this video, this is quite deliberate. For the sake of clarity and accuracy, I will often refer to all these sexualities as either fetishes or sexual deviancy. I'd also like to say that I'm not going to spend a lot of time providing evidence here, because this video...
Shocking! He's not going to provide evidence? Weird.
...is about the bigger picture of the gay agenda.
Normally, if you're talking big picture, you still provide evidence for your claims. That's not really a good excuse.
That said, I've provided plenty of evidence and sources over the years, which I don't want to waste time.
That's an interesting strategy. I'm not going to provide any sources here, but trust me, I have in the past. Don't look it up, though. I'm not going to tell you where to find it. I just did, so just assume everything I'm saying is true. Cool.
Revisiting. One of the biggest deflections you'll come across whenever anyone complains about alleged homophobia and other hatred directed towards those living a fetish lifestyle is that these people...
Oh my goodness. Being in the LGBT community is not a fetish lifestyle. Me being bisexual is not a fetish. Me being trans is not a fetish. Neither of these things are fetishes to me. They just aren't. They're just who I am. A fetish is like something you need to get off, or something that helps you get off. None of those things get me off. I don't get off at the thought of being trans. I don't get off at the thought of being bi. I just am trans and am bi. Like, what? KBS666, thanks for subscribing with Prime for 10 months, says, so much fun, but this guy is nuts. Not being straight is not a fetish. I have fetishes, and I'm straight. Ashy Boo says, I have sources. They just go to a different school, and you wouldn't know them.
People have been tolerated in other times in history.
Gender euphoria is better than sex. They're both good.
That were forced underground due to oppression. All social justice movements push this kind of narrative which drives the agenda forward, although it would be inaccurate to put all social justice movements in the same category as something like the abolition of slavery. Often this narrative is built on a mixture of half-truths and outright lies, and the gay agenda is no different. It's certainly true that fetish lifestyles have basically existed anywhere that civilization has ensued.
So, by what definition are they fetishes, then? Like, how are you defining fetish here? If you think all gay people and trans people are just fetishists, like, what do you think a fetish is? Like, if you think it's just a fetish, then let's give an example. Then why aren't we the, like, LGBT F community, the F standing for feet, like someone who's into feet, or someone who's into any other, like, sexual fetish? Like, there's a difference. Like, for instance, I'll give a good example. There are actual people who are into, like, feminization, which is a fetish, right? That's not being trans. That is a fetish that involves, typically, a cis man being feminized in some way, or being, like, put in traditionally feminine roles, feminine clothing, whatever, right? But that's not their identity. They don't actually identify as a woman. They don't feel more comfortable that way. In fact, often, to my understanding, it has something to do with, like, embarrassment. It's basically has to do with, like, an embarrassment kink or something like that. Not always, to my understanding, but those people exist. They're not trans or part of the LGBT community. That's their fetish, right? They get off on it. It's about sex for them. Me being trans, me being bisexual, not a fetish, right? I'm just attracted to both men and women, and I'm trans. Just means I was assigned male at birth. I have a penis, unfortunately, and I don't identify as that, and I'm making steps. Not everyone has to, of course. You don't have to change things medically in order to be trans, but I personally am changing things. It's not a fetish. You think I'd spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for a fucking fetish? No orgasm's that good, and I've had some good ones.
But it's also true that the more open this becomes, the more it coincides with the destruction of civilization, which would explain why so many moralists warn against the tolerance of sexual deviancy. A strong repression of women can coincide with male sexual deviancy, such as Islamic or ancient Greek culture. This goes hand in hand with the notion that women are so precious that they can't be defiled or viewed in public, and therefore need to spend their entire lives away from the temptation and prying eyes of men. But men in particular have a very strong sexual urge, and if this isn't tempered by a moral...
Wait, does he think women don't have strong sexual urges? That's a self-report.
social code, they will find other ways to satisfy themselves in the absence of women. For some, this could be as simple as masturbation. For others, this could be far more in-depth, and this could become very dysfunctional or even sadistic.
We'll do a bingo update after the video.
Over the years, as I've studied this behaviour in detail, it hasn't convinced me that anyone is born with a gene that shapes their sexuality.
Why do you assume it's a gene? It can be sociological, or it could just be the natural state of things that some people are just attracted to both genders, no genders, whatever. Who cares? Like, the idea that there's a single gay gene, I don't even think has been, like, a common hypothesis for a while. Like, No, it wouldn't matter if it was a gene or not. Who cares?
Other than being male or female, which comes with a hardwired attraction to the opposite sex.
Oh, Baha, who is a developmental geneticist, says there have been genes linked to homosexuality, though. I actually didn't know that.
For the purpose of procreation. If a gay gene did exist, then there's no reason to believe that there isn't a gene for any other number of sexual lifestyles. And this is precisely the point. The people consciously pushing a gay agenda know that they're never going to find a gay or any other kind of sexuality gene, because it doesn't.
I don't think I've heard any rhetoric surrounding gay rights or anything involving, like, a gay gene ever in my lifetime. I know that used to be a talking point just to get people to come around to understanding the idea that, like, people don't choose to be gay or bi or whatever. They just are. It's an easy way of explaining it. It's a little bit how, like, trans people sometimes explain being trans to dumb people or religious people by saying, I'm a female soul trapped in a man's body. Like, that's not literally true. I don't believe in souls, but it helps idiots understand something. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to dumb something down for your audience. So if you need to explain being trans to someone who doesn't believe in sociology, but does believe in angels, then you say, I'm a female soul trapped in a man's body, right? Similar thing here. Isaac Inanimate says, I'm a trans man on testosterone and I have a feminization kink. It's more about the taboo attached to masculine people wearing women's clothing. Being forced is just an excuse to enjoy something you have been taught is bad. That's interesting. Yeah. See, sexuality and gender are very complicated. Thanks for sharing.
Exist. So they have to gradually push their agenda forward by making sex and reproduction two completely separate things. This allows them to put fetishes on a par with sexual intercourse, starting with the fetishes that more people would tolerate and working towards the ones that more people wouldn't. By the time we get to the latter, there will already be a pathway and template in place with hate crime legislation to silence dissent and a large number of politicians that are either sexual.
I mean, yeah, if you commit hate crimes on LGBT people or any group, honestly, yeah, you should be held accountable for that. Fuck you.
Deviants themselves or too self-serving to care about the consequences of their actions. This gradual acceptance is the reason why this agenda began as simply the gay movement and has slowly added more labels to its cause.
What? You understand that, like, Stonewall wasn't just a bunch of, like, cis gay men hanging out and throwing bricks, right? Like, trans people were also there. Other people were fucking there, dude. Learn something before you start talking about it.
First with lesbianism, then bisexuality, followed by trans identity, and now moving towards more ambiguous fetishes that resemble the ultimate aim of a sexual free-for-all, like queerness and pansexuality. Gradualism is how many radicals push for change, and it isn't something new.
First, we you could use this for anything else. By the way, to give context on the type of person this guy is, the recommended video on the right, you can't see it very well, but you can see part of the title. This is another video he posted called Why White People Are More Intelligent Than Black People. So this is who we're dealing with here, just so you know.
If
a racist, basically.
Radical agenda moves too quickly, the backlash will put a stop to it. This is why the first step for this agenda was homosexuality, by far the most socially accepted fetish in human history.
That's insane to say. No. That's the kind of thing you could only say out of ignorance in hindsight. Homosexuality in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, when the gay rights stuff was, you know, really kicked off at Stonewall, like in the 70s, and then prior to that, like, it was such a taboo. Being gay was associated, basically interlinked with the concept of being, like, a pedophile, people at the time publicly thought that all gay people were pedophiles. We've watched a educational air quote film from the 50s called Boys Beware that's basically all about conflating gay people and pedophilia. In no way in America was being gay okay or accepted. What are you talking about? It took time and energy and fighting. It took people going to prison. It took people fighting their whole lives just for the gay community to start to be able to come out and say, hey, I'm gay. I'm not a creep. I'm not a pedophile. I'm just an adult person who wants to be in consenting relationships with other adult peoples. Like, what is wrong with you? Are you an idiot? No wonder he says he doesn't want to provide any sources for his claims. Literally everything he's saying is bullshit. Marcus Drake with 50 bits says, hanging out and throwing bricks. Sounds like a euphemism now to decide if it's about drugs or sex.
As apologists will remind you, the gay agenda is also about redefining sexual normality and repressing anyone that doesn't conform to this standard.
Okay, let's take a look at his, slippery slope of... Oh, God. Okay. So at the top, which is very moral, apparently, is heterosexuality. God loves dick and vag. Tea with Goblins with 100 bits says, also the whole concept of a fetish is contingent on certain types of sex being the social default. There is no fetish without a supposed normal to compare it to. None of it's real, slutty turtles all the way down. Homosexuality, which according to him is more deviant than heterosexuality. Then polyamory, which is interesting because polyamory is just an extension of, like, heterosexuality or homosexuality or, you know, bisexuality or whatever. It's just with multiple partners. Weirdly, I don't agree with the order of this. Not that it really fucking matters, because everything from here down is fucked up. He puts pedophilia as more acceptable than bestiality or necrophilia. I don't know if I'd put those in that order if I was making this chart. I think whoever made this chart, again, has done a bit of a self-report, because apparently they think pedophilia is somehow more acceptable than necrophilia or bestiality. Again, all bad. Don't do any of those things. But at least with necrophilia, there's not like an aware victim. I don't know. Not a conversation I really want to have. The point I'm trying to make is, this chart is hilarious, and again, no citations on any of this. Just a chart that they made.
Ironically, this merely confirms the social collapse that our ancestors warned about when sexual deviancy is
Ancient wisdom on the bingo card.
openly tolerated. We increasingly see a society where people are so tolerant of sexual deviancy that even paedophiles are agitating for acceptance and...
They've always done that, and they always get told no. Literally... Anytime, like, pedos or maps or whatever the fuck you want to call them, try and be like, can we be part of the LGBT community? Everyone in the LGBT community says, fuck no, fuck you, go away. Every time. Every single time. No one is accepting fucking pedophiles. Are you kidding me? Nick with 45-bit says, your ancestors probably warned us about interracial marriage, you Nazi twat. I mean, he'd probably agree with that, too. I'd imagine the only reason he didn't put miscegenation on this chart is because he at least wants to have a little bit of a mask on. Isaac Inanimate says, necrophilia is cool and based. Hannah Reloaded Blast 2021. No. No, it's not. Do not do.
and mainstream.
Have we had forced feminization yet? I talked about it, but I don't think anyone else talked about it. So no.
Media outlets are giving platforms to people like Todd.
Oh yeah, polyamory's fine too. I don't care if people are poly. Not that it matters what I think anyway, but yeah, it's cool if you're poly as long as everyone's consenting.
Nickerson, who call themselves virtuous paedophiles. This really does show that there's no limit to what will be openly tolerated once Pandora's box.
No one is tolerating pedophiles. What are you talking about? The one thing everyone on the planet agrees about is fuck pedophiles.
Of sexual deviance
Tea with Goblin says necrophilia. Crack open a cold one. That's gross.
is opened. The only limit is normal sexual identity, which is why men's rights
Ah, yes. Heterosexuals, the most oppressed group in America.
activists are given no platform unless they conform to the sexually deviant agenda on sites like
Yes, that's why men's rights activists are laughed out of the room, not because they're a bunch of sexist dickheads. It's clearly because they're oppressed.
A Voice for Men. It's also why normal sexuality must be repressed, because if sexuality is fluid, then innate attraction to the opposite sex must be false. This is
No? If you're straight, that's fine. I don't care. I do not care what anyone's sexuality is as long as it involves consenting human adults. I do not care. I don't care. Fuck whoever you want, as long as they are consenting human adults. That's it.
explains why so many academics and social justice warriors argue that being straight is a social construct, which is nothing but a projection of the fact that fetish lifestyles are social constructs shaped by experience.
Basically, a lot of things are social constructs. A lot of them are. Like, I completely believe... How old is this video? This is from August this year. The concept, I guess, of being straight is a social construct, but being straight is not a social construct, nor is being gay or whatever. These are descriptors for real-world desires and behaviors, right? But everything we define is, I guess, on some level a social construct. Who cares?
As we can
Ashiboo says, quote, social justice warriors. Oh, hi, 2015. It's been a while.
see, the true goal of this
I've never seen someone argue heterosexuality is a social construct. Like, ever.
agenda is
Oh, the neo-gender thing. Great. This discourse. This guy really is stuck, like, in 2015, isn't he?
the acceptance of all sexual fetishes, so it's not strictly accurate to call this a gay agenda. But gay agenda has become the most widely accepted meme, and it would be hard to change this to something more accurate like the sexually fluid agenda. Another way this agenda is gradually pushed on society is by inventing endless types of sexuality.
Tube-Man says, weird that neither bi or pan is on this chart. I wonder if it's because he couldn't find a PowerPoint slide with a longer chart. I don't know.
That are equally valid and true, except being straight, of course. This began with fabricating a distinction between social and biological sex. The idea is that sex is just a superficial way to describe our biology and anatomy, while gender is what actually shapes our sexual desires.
No? What? He doesn't even understand the thing he's saying. What? Gender isn't about sexual desires. That's sexuality. What are you talking about? H. Baird says, when the term SJW first appeared, did anyone else wonder why there was suddenly so much vitriol against single Jewish women? No. I did find it weird that they were trying to make the idea of fighting for social justice derogatory. But then I was also a shitty in-the-closet teenager. So I was like, oh, other people are saying this? Okay, I'll get on that. And I'm sure you could go back and find old videos from like 10 years ago where I used that term once or twice. I'm sure it's real fucking cringe.
But no such distinction exists because, for normal people, the sexual desire to
He thinks only men are attracted to women and women are attracted to men, hence why he thinks gender influences sexuality. Wow, that'd be real dumb of him.
reproduce is directly linked to their sex. The question some may ask is who is behind this agenda and for what reason?
Oh god, is this gonna get anti-Semitic?
This isn't as hard to answer as some might think. Due to historical intolerance of sexual deviancy, those behind this agenda are used to operating in secret because their fetishes aren't widely embraced.
It's gonna get anti-Semitic, isn't it?
These people are obviously going to have an interest in normalizing sexual deviancy, but not everyone wants to change society, and for some, a life in the closet
Oh, you said it earlier in the video. My bad. Missed it.
it is good enough, or at the very least, carrying out their fetishes in private. For others, this isn't good enough, and these are the ones being exploited by powerful people driving a wider agenda with their money and influence. Often these powerful people are also sexual deviants, and therefore want to normalise sexual deviancy for their own benefit. But a major part of this wider agenda is social engineering. By promoting sexual behaviour as separate from reproduction, it allows the engineers to control the birth rate in society.
I'm gonna go ahead and say thinly veiled anti-Semitism. Considering his other videos, I'm gonna guess thinly veiled anti-Semitism.
This also allows the state to take control of parenting by using the cover of equality. Rather than parenting and marriage being a natural right, it becomes a state-sanctioned privilege.
If you want to have a legal marriage, it is, but no one says you can't have like a religious marriage ceremony. Go do that if you want, and don't get married like legally. That's fine. No one can stop you.
Once we have to be inclusive to couples that can't conceive children naturally. The breakdown of the family then accelerates the more couples aren't pair bonding through the act of having children together.
Do you think that people only bond and like gain attachments to each other through procreation? What?
People need to understand that leaving others alone has nothing to do with this agenda. Otherwise, they're going to realise that it's all about control when it's too late to do anything about it. This is Rocking Mystery, over and out.
What an asshole! Oh no. The science of sex appeal. Yikes. Oh, yep, he's anti-Semitic. Definitely anti-Semitic on the bingo card. Good effing lord. Added to the conspiracy list.